We're ready to go.
Everyone, are we good to go, Di?
Yes, we're live.
Right. Thanks very much, Di. Thanks for pulling this together. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back from quite an extensive Christmas break. I hope you all had a relaxing time with family and friends. It does seem a long time ago since we were last together for an official Otago Regional Council meeting on the 9th of December. So welcome to this extraordinary council meeting of the Otago Regional Council, and welcome to any viewers out there as well. Just before we start the meeting, I just want to acknowledge the passing of Louise Rosson, former chairperson of the Otago Regional Council. She also served on the Dunedin City Council, and she also was the first woman to be elected as president of Local Government New Zealand. And she also served on the board of New Zealand On Air and was a Justice of Peace and won a seat on the Otago District Health Board, which now is, of course, the Southern District Health Board. So, yeah, really just want to acknowledge her and her contribution to the region and considerable long period of public service. There may be others that may want to comment. Raise your hands if you wish. All good. Carmen.
Thank you, Chair. No, prior to that, she actually was my shorthand teacher when I was at Moreau, and I failed her very dismally, though she was quite proud that I did go on to be head prefect at Kavanagh, but my shorthand left a lot to be desired, but she was a great teacher too. So thinking of her, and at this time, and may she rest in peace. And thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks very much, Carmen. Any other speakers? If not, our thoughts are with Louise's family and friends. Okay.
Sorry, Andrew.
Oh yes, Kate.
Sorry, and I should have done this at the previous meeting, and I'm really sorry that I didn't, but we had a huge agenda. Can I just also acknowledge the passing of Neville Markey, who didn't work for the regional, wasn't a regional councillor, but acted for the regional council for decades, I think, in its inception, and did a lot of work right throughout Otago. I know that he worked for the ORC because I had my very first case against him when I'd left Dunedin to get away from anyone who knew me and my family, and he came up to Timaru and did a case. So he was forever the gentleman, and an absolute wealth of knowledge, and I think helped shape water practices in Otago. And I just want to acknowledge the huge contribution he made to where we are now.
Thanks for that, Kate. I did come across Neville when he was representing the city on a number of matters, and I remember the Environment Court challenge when the warehouse decided to set up on some fairly good industrial land in South Dunedin. But yeah. Okay, no other comments? Okay, there are no apologies. I believe we've got full turnout. Moving on to item 2, confirmation of the agenda. As far as I know, there are no changes. Moving on to conflict of interest, it's just a reminder, members, the need to stand aside from decision making when a conflict arises between their roles of elected representative and any private or other external interests they might have. Anyone want to flag anything at this stage? Okay. Moving on to item 4, matters for council consideration. We've got the report from Amanda and Sarah regarding the operating procedures for governance within the red traffic light setting COVID-19 protection framework. I think this is just an opportune time to have a discussion as governance around the way we would like to operate going forward, whether it's council meetings, committee meetings, or workshops. But maybe initially, if I ask Sarah to give an update regarding where things are at with the development of the staff policy, Sarah, because I know it's been a work on in the last few days, and just essentially we have landed from a risk assessment and what that looks like from a staff policy. It may not be fully developed yet, and understand that, but is there anything you'd like to share with us at this point?
Yes, ELT met this week and considered the consultation submissions received on the policy. There was a high percentage of staff who were in favour of mandating vaccination, and that is the decision that's been taken. So staff are being made aware of that this afternoon. Managers had a briefing on that this morning.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Excellent. So the recommendations there's 4 recommendations. Obviously, the first 2 are the first one is noting the report. The second one is particularly noting the chief executive's role being the person conducting a business or undertaking the activity, and has those responsibilities set out under the COVID protection framework regime. And really our focus is on the recommendations 3 and 4, and 3 obviously gives those various options, and any other option that may pop up during this discussion that has the support of the majority. And the 4th one is around reconsidering what we adopted back on the 10th of November regarding meetings outside of Dunedin. We've got one planned for March. The implementation committee meeting, my computer's just told me my battery's low, so sorry. So they're the 4 recommendations. So I'll just open it up for questions at this point. Are there any questions or queries? No question. Brian?
Yeah, my question is I think 3 options have been put there, but no recommended option. I mean, it's obviously a fluid situation. Is there a recommended option today?
No, so it's in our hands in terms of what we prefer.
No, I realise that, but I was asking whether staff have had a vote today. I was asking whether there was a staff recommendation. Obviously in the report there isn't, but today staff have had a vote.
So you're directing the question. No, you're directing the question to whom?
To the chief executive.
Okay, thank you. Sarah.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. The voting today considered the policy. As you will have seen in previous meeting notes, for various reasons, our suggestion had been that meetings were to be on Zoom. However, this meeting was called by the chair, so we have left the recommendations for you to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, queries? If not, is there someone wanting to move 1, 2, and 3 with an option, and 4 with regards to not potentially visiting Cromwell in March?
Sorry, I had my hand up, Andrew.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't, but I thought I had. Sorry.
Are we using, sorry, just to be clear, are we using electronic hands or are we just using manual? Just so I know what I'm looking for.
Probably manual's easier, is it?
Righto. Okay, we'll go manual. Everyone out. Right, Hillary, Brian.
So I had, I think, a question. The disadvantages posed in option 2 which seems to me a jolly fine option generally, suggests that we could all be exposed to COVID and have a problem with representation, and so could staff. Presumably, since the chances if we're fully vaccinated are very low that we would be sickly from it, then presumably the worst that would happen is that some of us would get COVID and we'd have to Zoom from home. I mean, so we're isolating or whatever, and we just then revert back to doing a whole thing on Zoom. Am I right there? Is that just that we would just revert back to a Zoom situation from what would otherwise be for people who wanted to attend to be able to?
That's a question for me. So the 50-50 option and option 2, if there was a number of councillors impacted by COVID, you're essentially saying those people would be self-isolating at home, and we would potentially be able to operate fully on Zoom. Is that providing
Yes.
those were
Yes.
able to?
And that there appears to be no significant danger of fully vaccinated and boosted people being so sick that they couldn't be at the other end of a Zoom. But perhaps I'm not up to date with some science from right today. Does anyone know any science that's better than that? That it's very unlikely we wouldn't be able to be at home on a Zoom if the worst happened and we all had to self-isolate or caught it?
Well, the quorum is 7. So yeah, we've got that number to meet in terms of to meet our standing orders. But other than that, I don't think there would be any other issues other than, as you say, individuals being able to operate from home if they were suffering from COVID. That'd be a personal choice. So.
Okay, well, I'd like to move option 2 then, please.
Okay. Are we a seconder? Seconded by Carmen. I'm going to go to Brian for his question before we go to the debate on that option. Brian?
Apologies. I had thought that that we'd finished the questions and I was about to move option 1, to be honest with you. Okay, so we're moving into questions on this option 2, are we? Or discussion around it?
Well, let's just have questions across the board. I'm just holding the debate on what's been moved, option 2, moved and seconded. Any questions in general, and then we'll go to debate. And then if option that's been moved and seconded fails, you're foreshadowing option 1 by the sound of it. But have you got any?
Well, can I ask a question to the mover of option 2?
Yep.
I mean, my understanding option 2 is that half the councillors would have the opportunity to attend the council chambers. Is that correct? Option 2?
If you're asking that of me, I think that word half was might more accurately be described as part, because there would be the ability for us to isolate in the council chambers, especially since it sounds like staff would be likely to be on Zoom. We would fit, my guess is, as many people who would like to actually attend. When it says half, I don't know whether that means 5 or 6 or.
To be fair, you're the mover of option 2, and what option 2 says is that it means up to 6 councillors could attend in person, and the remaining 5 could attend online, which is nothing like what you've just told me. And you're the mover of the motion.
Yes. Yes, it says up till 6. I guess that's ideally, I would have set up to however many people would like to attend, but up to 6, whatever. If people want to come who have crap internet and things and want me not to be there, or whether we want to tweak it one way or the other, I don't mind. If somebody would like to move an amendment to that, I'm happy, and I don't know whether Carmen would be to accept an amendment that just says whomsoever up to us the safe number, which is probably 8 or something.
And just Mr. Chair, I'm just completing my question. So you believe that having up to 6 councillors in the chamber and the balance on Zoom is, and of course the 6 in the chamber, if there was a COVID scare, that would impact on all of them, and potentially in the future, with the quorum, you think that's the best way of running this institution?
I think that the science takes you to a very, very small risk of us being in quorate as a result of making that choice.
Okay, so I've got Gretchen, then Kevin.
My question is on the recommendation 2, and just digging into that, with the chief executive as the primary person conducting business or undertaking and their health and safety obligations, and just running ORC, and which will encompass running a meeting as well. The chief executive is the person that the responsibility will lie with, and also any liabilities, I suppose, in terms of obligations as well. So if we are to meet in person, etc., whether or not that's actually going to fit with staff policies and the organisational policies, I suppose, in terms of keeping everyone safe, and whether we, through making a black and white decision today, are we taking into account the fact that the CE is going to need to make a call in terms of the organisation and how it operates, for example, servicing us and our needs to run a meeting? Just how that would actually work.
Question for
So
Sarah.
I guess it is a question for Sarah.
Okay, just to be clear, we already have in place right now our response under the red traffic light. What that means for the organisation is that staff have an option to work from home, and that at no time do we have more than 50% of staff on a site. We also have consideration about movement between sites. So where we can, we're avoiding movement between sites. That's encouraged. So for example, people from Philip Lang House are avoiding coming to Stafford Street if they can possibly help it. Thank you, Hilary. Also, this isn't just, for us, this isn't just about COVID and people, whether people get sick per se. It's also about business continuity, so that we're available and able to respond to some of the other things that we need to do that are essential. So for example, pollution incidents, we're able to maintain our transport operation, we're able to maintain our flood teams, our civil defence teams, etc. So that's why we have the 50%. I would have thought, and that's why resolution 2, or proposed resolution 2, is written in the way it is, that you would be willing to be consistent with what we have in place for the organisation. For those same business continuity reasons, and I'm not a scientist, I'm sorry, I'm not confident in advice and giving you advice about whether you'll catch COVID or not, because I think there are a number of variables about the severity of the disease that are very personal to each individual. In terms of servicing you, again, staff have the option of working from home. So there may be staff who have circumstances that mean that they will not service you in the chamber as they would normally, and they would be online. And that may extend to any staff, whether that committee secretaries, etc. Of course, as we've said, there would be some changes to the access you could have around facilities, because usually there is cleaning up required, etc., and we would be minimising that. So at the moment, we're not catering, we're not doing anything where somebody else has to deal with your cup or your glass or whatever it may be. So those are some of the provisions. But the important thing to recognise is that this is, yes, it's about COVID in the red setting, overlaid with a business continuity plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm just, in light of what's being said, I just struggle with the sixth councillor and what advantage we're getting over. I thought the advantage would be for all of us to get together and interact, as opposed to interact with correct distancing, of course, but to interact as opposed to one group there and one group away. So I'm just wondering if Councillor Calvert would actually, which means all councillors could attend in person, but that would be contrary to our CE's recommendation of staff and our business continuity plan that has been carefully thought through. So I'm just struggling to see, is that what Councillor Calvert intends? Otherwise I'd struggle with.
I'm happy to amend it to all councillors. I think we can find a way in the council chamber of keeping 11 councillors 2 metres apart. So I would be happy for an amendment that takes that requirement out. And at the same time, I would say that we do have at almost every meeting now somebody or another on Zoom one way or another. So the idea of some of the meeting being on Zoom and some of them being in the room is not an impossible thing. So, but for anybody who wants to, in the way of councillors, we will find a way to keep them apart in the council room, was my. So if you want to make that, suggest that amendment, Kevin, if that's what you were doing.
It's probably an amendment you need to make if you're comfortable with it.
Okay.
Okay, just hold that thought. So you're okay. So you support that amendment, Hilary and Carmen as well?
Yes.
Okay, can you just hold that thought, because I just want to finish off these other questions. I know Michael Laws and Kate have got their hands up. So Michael Laws first.
Thank you. It's a question for Sarah. Sarah, there are quite a few questions that flow from today and your decision. I'm assuming that for those people only who have been double vaccinated will be able to work for the ORC from now on. Is that correct, or have I got that wrong?
You're on mute, Sarah.
That's not entirely correct. That would be an absolute last resort. We are working through a process with individuals as at this very moment. I do not know who is vaccinated and who is not, because we have not been in a position to require that information.
But you're now going to inquire into that the vaccination status of ORC staff?
Yes, there is a process that we will go through, and in order for councillors to be able to enter an ORC site, we will also need to do the same.
Okay, well, that's the question I was going to ask, because if I'm assuming that if I turn up at the ORC for this meeting or any meetings in the future, I'll be required to produce my Vax Pass.
Yes, you will.
Will the same requirement be placed upon ORC staff entering any ORC buildings?
ORC staff will be providing their vaccination pass as part of this policy. They will provide it to HR, and they will provide it once, and they won't have to show it every time.
Okay. The second issue is, do staff have to wear their masks all day in the council buildings?
Yes, the recommendation to staff is now that they wear their masks whenever they're moving around the buildings. They may take their mask off at their desk if they wish. However, our strong recommendation is that they wear their masks as much as possible.
So it's not mandatory, it's a suggestion.
It is mandatory to wear masks as you move around the building and if you go into other people's offices.
So if you were meeting with another person, you would have to both have your masks on.
If you were meeting with others and you're sitting down and you're distancing, then we haven't mandated that as yet, but we are reviewing this in stages, and there may well come a time when COVID is in our community, which it is not at the moment, that we mandate full mask use.
So if that's the case for staff, why wouldn't that principle also apply for governance members?
Governors would need to wear their mask in all areas of the building except for when they were sitting, but that may also likely change where we would require you to be masked. So I think we flagged that in the paper, that at some point we expect that to happen.
Yes, it says masks would be required those attending in persons for the duration of the meeting, including speaking.
Yes.
And that's the reason I raised the issue, because if staff aren't required to do that, it would seem odd that governance were.
Yes, except staff are workers and governors are not.
Yes, that's all members of the ORC. And finally, we health compromised employees, and this also relates to governors as well. Those who would be compromised significantly, whether they contract the lesser form of Omicron or not, are we looking out for them and suggesting that they might need to work from home permanently until the danger is past?
We are looking out for our staff, but part of looking out for our staff is also around the provisions that we have made, some of which you're considering today as to whether or not you will also take those up.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, Kate.
Kia ora. Sorry, I was really going to talk to the motion, but I'm just wondering, in hindsight of the discussion, whether, and taking on Kevin's point, we're actually asking for a modified option 2, where any councillors or members with vaccine pass requirements may attend the council committee or workshop briefing meetings. And the reason I've got the word "or members" is, of course, with strategy and planning, we've got 2 other members who are not councillors. So the question I have actually for Hilary is, are you moving 1, 2 and 3 as option 2? Or are you also moving a recommendation for 4? Or are we going to deal with 4 later? Or that may be a question for you, Chairman. Because at the moment, I'm not quite sure where we're at on that one.
Okay, so how about we deal with, if Hilary and Carmen are happy to deal with 1, 2 and 3 with option 2, and then we'll deal with 4 separately, because that probably needs a separate conversation.
Yes, happy with that. Thank you, Chair.
Can't hear you, Hilary. You're on mute.
Happy with that, with option 2 and the amendment as the way Councillor Wilson has just described, with vaccine passes for councillors who attend in person
So
I've just
just,
sent it through.
and other members.
Right.
so have you just flicked it through, have you, Kate?
I think she's about to.
Sorry, I'll just put that up in a second, just a moment.
No worries. Thank you, Di.
Right, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Sorry, some of that goes the remaining
sorry.
5 would attend.
The 50% I was wanting to have removed too.
It's the remaining could attend online.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Okay, and take that out there.
Yeah.
And the next 50% in yeah, no, that's good.
So you're happy, Hillary?
Yes, I
Just
am.
remaining not 5.
And yes,
Take out the word 5 on the third line.
Oh, yeah.
So you're happy, Hillary. Carmen, you're happy?
Carmen? Yeah, I am. I was just reading it. Thank you. I am happy with it. Thank you, Chair Noon.
So speakers to this motion? Carmen, sorry, I can't see anyone else's hand except Carmen. So
Sorry.
I
I
can now.
just would like, thank
Yep.
you. I am in support of it. I think as Councillor Calvert says, if you've got cracked connection, the wind changes, anything happens here, power goes out, you're really in no man's land. Personally, for me, I would like to be there. I think there's a lot of benefit in it. I have a vaccine pass and I'd like to support this option. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael D.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks all those who have put that together, but I oppose it. Pardon me. I'll be supporting option 1 after this one's been defeated. I think the amended version is cumbersome or would result in cumbersome practice, risky practice, and would be unfair on staff.
Thank you. Kevin?
Excuse me. Having watched the Central Otago District Council meeting of the I think it was the 22nd of January, where they operated under COVID, and I don't know if they are still now, and they may not be now. All staff that entered the room had masks on, and staff in the room had masks on. Councillors were distanced correctly and actually spoke with masks off. My big concern around here is really staff interaction and our ability for continuity. And so look, I am struggling to support that it is smacks in face of what we're trying to do continuity wise, and I am probably more I believe it probably could happen, but I'd like to do some more work around ensuring that areas were I'd be relying on areas being separated from staff, so staff at all weren't jeopardised. So that would be my concern just at the moment.
Thank you. Alexa?
Option 1 to me is clean and simple and makes sense under red, and I don't support what's being put up. I think the disadvantages of elected members living in areas of unstable internet connections, that's reasonably easily solved by finding places where their connections are good and going to those particular places as required. About not being the preference of some elected members, well, guess what? None of this is a preference. It doesn't enable the same informal interactions. Well, we've got that problem anyway now, and we need to learn to do things in another way, and especially with staff. And taking off a mask to speak and sitting there with masks and so on. No, to me, it just seems the clean, a sensible way forward is under red, operate online. Thanks.
Thank you. Kate?
Thank you. The COVID government advice is that at red, businesses and schools are open. And I think that we need to have choices, and I appreciate that some of us may not feel safe going to the council chambers for a whole lot of reasons, but I actually think we've got a leadership role here to say, actually, things have changed. We're no longer in lockdown. The world is going forward. We're working our way through this, and to a great extent that's been because a whole lot of people have been in lockdown at other times. But I think that whole thing has changed now, and we've got bus drivers that we put out there every day. We've got checkout counter staff all the time out and working. What makes us so precious that we're not doing our job? And with all respect, anyone who thinks that, I don't find this as good being on Zoom as being around a council room, and that's why we still have a council room, and I think that we're still designing council rooms for the future. I think it's really important that we are seen to interact. It's actually what's said over the coffee, during a coffee sometimes, which gets the best discussions going around the table as well, and we're not having that chance to do it. So I'm sorry, I totally respect anyone not wishing to join a council meeting for 110 reasons that they may have, but I don't think that we should mandate that it shouldn't happen. And for that reason, I'll be voting for the modified option 2 and joining forces with all of those others that are going out and working in workplaces and showing some solidarity with their demand that they have to.
Thank you. Michael Laws.
Andrew, I've just got a question at some stage too.
Okay.
So am I speaking?
Yep, Michael Laws. I'll come back to you, Kevin.
Okay. I have to agree with what Kate said. The Otago Regional Council is not a unique beast, and every day, hundreds of thousands, millions of New Zealanders go about their business, conversing even under this red setting. My children go to school every day. They go to a school with a roll of 1,100 students and over 100 staff. And they go about their educational business, as all schools do, all throughout New Zealand every day. They're not required to stay at home or to wear a mask when they talk to each other, or to go on the playground, or to be separated. They are simply doing what humans do. And we find that we make our best decisions always when we interact as human beings. Otherwise, the Otago Regional Council would have been calling in from home on the phone ever since its creation in 1989. And we know that that's not the best way to make decisions. Omicron's not the Black Death. Prior to this health crisis occurring, 550 New Zealanders died every year of influenza. So there is a truth that viruses that live amongst us in the community cause fatalities. That's an unfortunate part of being part of the human community. I have absolute respect for the Chief Executive making decisions as she feels she must for her staff. This is not about the Chief Executive, though, or the ORC staff. It's about us. We have a critical year of decision-making ahead of us. We will best make those decisions if we can interact with each other as human beings are meant to do. And if we do it on Zoom, we have a great ability to stuff it up. For those reasons, I will vote for the motion.
Thank you. Kevin, you have a question, is that correct?
Yeah, 2 questions. One to Councillor on Councillor Forbes' comment is about finding somewhere to go, which she understands my position here because we've had interrupted conversations because of internet. What surety can I have that those places will be actually any better or safer than me going to the council chamber? And that would be my issue. I just wouldn't want to sit outside, I don't know, a BP station or whatever. And so we'd have to, and I see the CE has offered our staff, our officers, and I'm just wondering then how that would be conducted with the staff in those smaller offices. So it's probably a question to both Sarah and Alexa, really. That would be my concerns around that. I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just concerned about.
We're midstream in a debate, but you've obviously expressed a view. I think I would rather that we complete the debate and then I will go and see whether Sarah or Alexa wants to make any comment with regards to that question. Okay, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to participate in the debate, but Kevin did raise an interesting point to me. I'm assuming that option 2 was in the chamber. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, providing it would meet the criteria under the COVID framework.
Yeah. Look, I just like to acknowledge a couple of speakers. I thought Kate and Michael spoke well, and a lot of what they said I agree with, but in the end I still will be voting for option 1. I didn't agree with Michael's concluding point that it's all about governance and not so much about staff, because the reality is that we need to work together, and if we do go into the chamber under option 2, there will be various staff interactions and so forth, which will be different from a Zoom interaction. We're all on a similar playing field, it seems to me. I'm actually hoping, and possibly naively, that this Omicron peak, and when it comes to Otago Southland, the peak isn't here forever. That if we do the Zoom thing for a period of time, we will be resilient and come out of it in a few months' time, being able to do our business and to meet more effectively. Anyway, I'm going to stick with the clean option 1.
Thank you. Carmen, I know you've spoken, but you've got your hand up. Have you got a question?
It wasn't so much a question, Chair, but it was just a statement, if you like, if I may make it, just in reply. Firstly, to Councillor Forbes. Yeah, well, it's all very well, but our internet wasn't always flash and things happen, and Dunedin is a better place. I often find too, as I'm sure a lot of rural councillors will find, you get your internet information that's sent to you sometimes when you get to Dunedin. And I've had that happen nights before I've had council meetings, which is one reason why I'd like to be in Dunedin. And number 2, just on what reflection Councillor Malcolm said, at our local school here, the children all have different breaks. Therefore, they don't interact with the other classes except when they're leaving to get on the bus. So there is ideas and interactions differently that could happen with the staff here in Philip Lang House if we chose to go back to there. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I still support the amendment for option B.
Okay, thank you. Look, from my perspective, I think it was really important that we had this conversation, because I know, via email, etc., there was, a bit of traffic, email traffic around the various views, and I think, and as Sarah's alluded to, it's been a big focus for her to ensure that ORC have an appropriate policy in place to ensure the staff are safe, to ensure continuity of service delivery, because this organisation is not the sort of organisation that can just shut a door like a library or a swimming pool or whatever. When you're dealing with the environment, it's a completely different kettle of fish, so to speak. So I think from my perspective, I'd like to think we get to a position where we find something that actually meets our needs to work efficiently and effectively, and also to work safely. And if that means we can do it within what's suggested in option 2, that's great. But my rider is around the flexibility going forward, where when things change, because the one thing we can guarantee, things will change in terms of COVID, that we adapt as we go along, rather than having to wait for a council meeting to adjust to perhaps a new regime under, whether it's orange or whatever. So I'm just flagging that if this is passed today, option 2, that we remain flexible going forward as a governance team to take advantage as COVID unfolds, whatever that means. And I suppose the other thing at the back of my mind is it is around the people. It's about the people around us as well. It's not just about us operating as a governance team, but it's also ensuring that the people around us are safe as well. And we've all got individual responsibilities in that regard. And it's important to take a cautious approach. And that's essentially my position, but I will be supporting option 2. Now, I'm just going to go back to Sarah and Alexa. Did you want to respond to Kevin's point or points at all? Or perhaps go to Alexa first.
It's probably more for Sarah to respond, but my thinking would be that we have meeting rooms all over the region, and that they can be used for this purpose, where a councillor wouldn't actually have to come into contact with anyone, which would obviate the problem, I would have thought. But really, it's probably, Sarah, you have to talk on the logistics of that.
Sure. Well, the first thing is all of you have iPads that have 4G, so you can actually access that 4G and work from a number of locations. It doesn't have to be inside of an ORC office. So it's built into your devices. Secondly, of course, we've made the offer. We wouldn't have made the offer if we didn't think that we could facilitate that in some way. I guess thirdly, I am concerned about the decision that you will make as the PCBU for the site. That does mean that liabilities sit with me, but it is not a decision that I am in control of. So I would ask you to think carefully about that, because if we end up in a situation where there is a health and safety claim against me, then I would be coming to you. So I would need your support in that situation because of the decision that you made. So, the decision is yours to make. I do have concerns with the option that you're pursuing. However, the paper says it all, so I don't feel any need to say anything further.
Can I just clarify, Sarah, are your concerns elevated because of the amendment?
Yes, they are. I think that they put me in a very difficult position.
So the chamber currently, in terms of the risk assessment, 6 councillors are able to operate in a safe manner within the framework of the COVID regime.
It's not about the chamber. It's about business continuity for the organisation. I think it's a very narrow view to take that it's just about the chamber. You don't just access the chamber. You also go to the toilet. You also drink tea and coffee. You also come in through the public areas. So the potential for interaction with staff, for example, and the policy for the site is 50%. We have whole teams that are managing to work like that. However, it's your decision to make, but I'm just saying that you're putting some liability on me that I hold that I'm uncomfortable with.
Okay. Thank you. So Kevin, you've got your hand up, but have you completed?
Look, I just wanted to make one comment before the vote was on what has just happened in our area where, and you may have read about it around COVID, which is the Duntroon Hotel, which is a small country hotel who is operating under very good rules. The vaccine pass, everything's being done really, really well. Last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago, there was a person in there who was later found to have COVID. So that was our first recognition of COVID in this area. That test was not proven until she'd had contact, but then immediately left the hotel when she was texted by the Department of Health. Went back to her house in Blenheim and was discovered that she had COVID. The hotel and the local garage, whose family she was a part of, simply shut their businesses for that testing period. Everyone that was there got tested and sorted, and now everyone's back in action. It's exactly it was before that scare happened. So, look, I think if we can operate as close to as a normal position as we can and be, as Chair Noon said, very reactive at the right times, I think that is the position we should be heading to. So I'll just leave it at that. And I'm still struggling with some words in option 2. And I just thought we should be wearing masks as per our staff guidance and mandates.
Can I just add one thing, Andrew, and that is perhaps we should take our lead from Parliament. Yesterday, Parliament met. Its speakers all rose to speak without masks on, but they were all socially distanced, and staff were servicing the parliamentary precinct. That is the highest decision-making body in New Zealand. And if they can do that yesterday, I have very little doubt that we can find a path through this ourselves.
I'd like to move that the motion be put, please.
Just before I said that.
It's a procedural motion.
Yep, sorry. Gretchen had her hand up and I haven't had a chance to go to her. So, yep, I'll just come back to you in a sec. Gretchen.
Hey, I think I'm off mute. Thank you. Yeah, I will be supporting option 1. We've heard from the Chief Executive what her feelings are. We are a civil defence organisation. We're either in red or we're not. We're not waiting for some indicators to show us that we're in a serious situation. We're already in red. So we can't just sort of react when sort of something might happen, as has been suggested, because I'm not sure exactly what that something would be. We need to have something that's clear. Councillor Forbes and others have spoken about that rather than reactive, or who would go in and who wouldn't go in, etc. We've had some people talking about, well, why don't we all just meet up, be similar to Parliament, etc. That's not actually what this is talking about either. It's about 50% of people coming in and participating. So it's unclear. It's wishy-washy, and I don't support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hillary? I assume there's no other speakers.
Well, I don't care whether there is. I've moved a procedural motion that the motion be put, because I think we've gone round the circle and we do need to move on.
Okay. I will put the motion. All those in favour. Well, hang on. We'll just work our way through. The first recommendation is that we note the report. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. in favour of noting the report? Against? Carried. Second one is that we note that the Chief Executive is the primary officer of the PCBU and as such has a responsibility to assess risk, COVID-19 exposure at the workplace and put in place appropriate controls to eliminate or minimise the risk as far as reasonably practicable. I'll put that motion. All those in favour raise their hand.
Can you see Councillor Laws? Because I can't.
No, I can't either. The
It's
motion.
all right. I'll let you know. I'll let you know if I'm against it.
Okay. Motion's carried. Second one. Now the third one, I just wondered, Di, could you put it up on the screen and then let everyone see it and then remove it and then we'll have the vote, if that's okay?
Yeah, just one moment.
Thank you.
Should be up now.
Thank you.
The word same needs to be deleted in the fourth line. And thus same, it should be a.
Okay. Everyone okay? Everyone know what we're voting on? Okay, Di, if you'd like to remove that, please. Thank you. I'll put recommendation 3. All those in favour, raise your hand. I'm going to, actually, I'll call for a division. It's probably easier and safer on Zoom. Sorry to be a pain, Di.
Good. So for the amended option 2, Councillor Calvert,
Yes.
Councillor Deaker,
No.
Councillor Forbes,
No.
Councillor Hope,
Yes.
Councillor Callagher,
Yes.
Councillor Laws,
Yes.
Councillor Malcolm,
Can't hear you.
Unmute.
It looks like a no, but can you confirm it, please? Can you unmute? That's a no. Yeah.
Councillor Noon,
No. Oh, golly. Yes. Oh, jeez.
Councillor Robertson,
No.
Councillor Scott,
No.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes.
6-5.
6 votes for, 5 against.
Motion carried. Okay. Thank you all. That concludes. Now I just need to thank you for your contribution, everybody. I just now need to move the resolution to exclude the public.
Seconded.
Seconded by Michael. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll reconvene or open
Sorry.
the.
And that included Len Anderson can stay
Yes.
and
Yes.
all staff from leave.
Yes.
Yes.
That needs to be noted. Thank you. Thank you, Di.
Right. So, and meeting's closed in public. I'll just